Namaste and welcome back. In this video, I am going to present the motivation behind learning the ethical hacking. In the last video, I have already presented the course content. In this video, I will first start with the concept of information security and the information security related concepts such as its properties and how the information is safeguarded in the organizations. Then I will move on to the concept of ethical hacking, why we will call it as ethical hacking, and then I will move on to the consequences of hacking and why it is utmost important in our daily life. So let us start. The topics that are discussed in this video are as follows. First of all, I will try to explain the information security concepts, because understanding this information security concepts is very much essential for learning the essence of the ethical hacking. So after discussing the information security, I will move on to the attacks that are possible on the information security. So why these particular attacks will occur, what are the consequences of these attacks, and how these attacks resulted into business and asset losses are going to be discussed in this particular section. Then I will move on to the what is hacking and what are the different hacking concepts and why this particular ethical hacking is required and why we should know this particular ethical hacking. As a consequence of hacking, the business and financial losses may occur and it may lead to cyber crimes, and in the section of cyber crimes I will discuss various crimes that are possible. I will throw light on various possible crimes. Then I will move on to the various controls that are going to be checked or to be kept on the information security, and if such kind of controls were broken with the hacking activity, then what are the laws and standards that are to be enforced on those culprits. Then finally I will conclude this video with the proper way of maintaining the systems and networks, and what are the precautionary measures that every individual and organization need to be taken to avoid hacking and malicious activities or hacking with the malicious intent onto the organizational networks or independent systems. Let us start with knowing what is meant by information security. The name itself telling you that information security means securing the information. So securing the information in the sense, the information may be available in various assets such as computer, web applications, web servers, data servers and others. So in these assets, whatever the information available, we need to safeguard them. So there exist several definitions in the literature for the information security. However, the famous Information Security Institute called SANS Institute has provided a definition for this. We'll see this particular definition. So according to SANS Institute, information security refers to the processes and methodologies which are designed and implemented to protect print, electronic or any other form of confidential, private and sensitive information or data from unauthorized access, use, misuse, disclosure, destruction, modification or disruption. That means all mishandlings such as unauthorized access, use, misuse, disclosure, destruction, modification are included in the information security definition, especially to safeguard the assets such as, actually to safeguard the print and electronic forms, or any other confidential and private and sensitive information. So this definition will exactly help us in knowing what is the basic intention behind information security. However, in order to have this information security, the information security was handled by 5 pillars. Those are like this: confidentiality, integrity, availability, authentication, and non-repudiation. So in this, confidentiality deals with assurance that the information is accessible only to the authorized users, or that means only authorized users can have access to the information. So here how we can say a particular person or particular user is authorized to have access to the information. So this can be decided with the help of cryptographic encryption mechanism, that is encryption and decryption. The one who are having the proper key only can be in a position to decrypt the information. So thereby the confidentiality can be achieved. Next comes to the integrity. Integrity means it is the way of maintaining the trustworthy of the data. That means we are going to make the tamper-proof data so that the data cannot be altered by the intruders or malicious activities. This is generally maintained with the help of cryptographic hash functions. So you might have seen whenever you download any software, especially like open source softwares, along with the software there will be a hash code mentioned along with side by side, that is it may be of MD5 or SHA1, like that. That means once you download the data, once you download the file and run the same cryptographic hash algorithm, that is message digest 5 or SHA simple hash algorithm, you have to get the same hash code that was represented in the website. So that means once you, after downloading the same hash code, if you might have got by running the same algorithm, and the code that what you got and the code that what mentioned in the website are same, that means that you have downloaded the file successfully without having any tampered content in that particular file. So this is the way how integrity is maintained in the information security. Next comes to the availability. So this availability usually deals with assurance that the systems are responsible for providing these services to the authorized users whenever they require it. That means whenever the authorized users require a particular service from the system, then the system should be in a position to provide it whenever the authorized users requires that. So this is what we call availability. Next we will move on to the authentication. So this authentication means ensuring the data or document are intended for genuine users. Here the authentication versus authorization is little bit confusing. Just I will give you a clear-cut distinction between how to remember the authorization and authentication. Authentication is about validating a particular user's credentials, such as username or user ID and password, to verify their identity. For example, if a student wants to enter into a university or a person wants to enter into a university, first he must have a valid identity card, so that the security personnel at the gate level will verify or will check the credentials of the person, such as valid roll number and the identity card is valid up to. So these are the things they will check it, and once the credentials are successful or valid credentials are available, then the security personnel will allow the person to enter into the university campus. So this is the way how the genuinity of the user or a person will be verified with the help of authentication. On the other hand, authorization deals with whether the authenticated person is allowed to enter into a particular restricted area or a particular restricted region or not. That means to have authorization, you must have authentication. In other words, authorization occurs after a particular user's identity is successfully authenticated by the security personnel or by the system or maybe by any other related organizational procedures. So which therefore gives you full access to the resources, especially in the computer networks, like access to the information, access to the files, databases, etc. So in a simple sense, if a person wants to enter into a university campus, that means he must have a valid identity card. That means that it is said to be authentication or authentication to enter into the university. Once he enter into the university, he cannot go anywhere, but he must be having a particular authorization to enter into some restricted areas such as server room or maybe like examination section, etc. So this is called authorization. Even though a person is having being authenticated at the gate level by the security personnel, but he is not authorized to enter into a particular restricted areas. So this is the way you can distinguish between the authorization, or we can say authorization requires authentication. And the last one is non-repudiation. This non-repudiation deals with the guarantee that a sender or a receiver of a message cannot deny that they have not sent the message or they have not received the message. So this is in general maintained by digital signatures in the security mechanisms. This non-repudiation is maintained generally with the help of digital signatures. These digital signatures are a kind of applications of cryptographic hash functions and encryption mechanisms. So these are the 5 pillars of the information security. So these 5 pillars is aiming to protect or safeguard the information or data available in the organization network or in the personal computer, or any kind of information will be safeguarded with the help of these 5 pillars only. So the ultimate aim of hackers is to break these 5 pillars or any one of the pillars to gain some information or to gain as much as information possible from the resources or from the assets of the organization. Here are some terminologies that we must remember throughout this course. Those terminologies are like this: assets, threats, vulnerability, risk, etc. So here an asset means what we are trying to protect. The asset may be a simple computer system, or maybe a laptop, or maybe a database server, or maybe a web application, or maybe a web server, etc. So what we are trying to protect is the asset. A threat is what we are trying to protect against. It means that what we are trying to protect, whether are you going to protect confidentiality or authentication or integrity or non-repudiation. So based upon the factor of the information security pillar, what we are trying to protect. While coming to vulnerability, a vulnerability is a weakness or gap in our protection efforts. So attackers or hackers will try to explore these vulnerabilities in the system. Consider this example to understand the terminologies assets, threats, vulnerabilities and risk easily. Here there exists a bank which will be holding a lot of cash. At the same time, the assets of the customers and which are locked in the lockers of the bank. So from the bank point of view, the cash and the jewelry or the assets that are deposited in the lockers are said to be the assets. Where in case of the bank has to protect these assets against the robbery. So hence here a threat for the bank is mainly robbery. While closing the bank, the bank manager and the security personnel will check through each and every door or each and every entry point into the bank. They will close them with a high security locks, so that no one can break the doors physically and can enter into the bank, so that the assets, that is money and the jewelry in the lockers, can be protected. Even after taking all such precautions, there may exist some weakness or maybe some gap in the entry system or the doors, etc., so that the robber will try to identify them. With the help of that weakness or gap in the entry points or in the doors, the robber may enter into the bank and may rob the entire cash or jewelry. So here that weakness and gap in the doors or entry points or maybe in the bank security system is the vulnerability here. So that vulnerability was explored by the particular robber by continuous observation. Once he explored that weakness or gap, he tried to exploit that in order to gain the access to the bank. So the risk of protecting the systems or risk of a system that is prone to the attacks depending upon the assets, threats and vulnerabilities. So hence we can also say this risk is the intersection of assets, threats and vulnerabilities. So finally, what is meant by compromising the system? Any computer or any network or any system that has been hacked and under the control of the hacker is said to be compromised. So that means if a system is said to be compromised, means that has been attacked by the hacker and hacker has taken the control of the system, then such kind of systems are said to be compromised systems. So these are the general terminologies that will come through or will go through the entire course. Now we'll see some top information security threats identified by the security researchers. One is insider threat. A threat may occur from inside of the system or maybe from the outside. it is not always guaranteed that a threat will always occur from the outside. Sometimes threats may also be inside, that means within the organizational network or within the system. It is generally will be done by the some trusted insider or a trusted person from within the organization. He may try to attack the corporate network or attack the organizational network, so that the organizational server may be compromised. Next one is botnet. Botnet, the name itself telling you that it's a network. It's a network of bots. Bot in the sense it's like a robot. That means it will do its intended functions or it will do its feeded functions on its own. Such kind of functions may be a malicious function. So a bot which will do some malicious activities, like that a network of bots will be used to compromise an organizational system or an organizational network. In general, intruders used to use this particular network of compromised bots or network of compromised systems to attack various other networks. So this is what is called botnet. Next comes to virus and worms. These are the most commonly used terminologies or most commonly listening words by the students and by the users. These virus and worms are usually will be available or will be placed by some unauthorized softwares that might have downloaded from the internet and installed. So these virus and worms are mostly will capture the network loopholes and will try to enter into the network, thereby infecting the entire network within minutes or seconds, we can say. The main difference between virus and worm is both the virus and worms will replicate itself and also will find network channels or network points to enter, so that these virus worms will be spreaded throughout the network of the organization. That means if a system is infected with virus or worm, obviously it will be spreaded throughout the network. The intention of these virus and worms is to spread throughout the network. In general, viruses will delete the files or delete some important content in the system. So usually these viruses cannot be controlled in a remote environment. On the other hand, worms are like they will replicate themselves as like viruses also, but they will cause more damage to the computer by making the computer system to function very slowly. And unlike viruses, worms can be controlled from the remote side. That means an attacker or an intruder will sit outside and will try to control the worms remotely via remote, that means via network. Along with virus and worms, there is another terminology in generally used called Trojan. So basically, like virus and worms, unlike virus and worms, Trojan will not replicate itself. Trojan is a backdoor entry program that was placed by the attacker once the system was compromised. And from remote, this particular virus, this particular intruder or attacker will try to exploit this Trojan, so that the important information such as emails, passwords, and the browsing information and these kind of things will be known to the attacker. Another important threat that was faced by the public today is mobile threats. This is the threat occurred because of the vigorous use of mobile devices. So these mobile devices, the users may not be knowing that which application is trusted and which application is not trustable, and simply they will download from the internet and they will try to install on their mobile phones. Once they install on the mobile phones, obviously they are giving the chance for the intruders to explore the possible vulnerabilities in the application and to capture the mobile devices. So basically, in order to download any application on the mobile devices, first of all, focus on the trusted and verified applications. Those applications or apps must be downloaded on the mobile devices and to be installed. After mobile application threat, a serious threat that was observed is cloud-based threats. Nowadays, many of the servers are moving to the cloud platform, that is cloud computing platform. In this cloud computing platform, the main aim of this cloud computing platform is to give the on-demand delivery of the services. Basically, in the on-demand delivery of the services, the service providing environment consisting of sensitive information of both organization and the users. Mostly client applications are interlinked, so if there exists any weakness or gap identified by the attacker in one client application, and if the exploiting of that particular vulnerability may lead to capturing of other client applications that are linked with the target client application. So in this way, the cloud based attacks are more popular nowadays. Next comes to the IoT application threats. IoT means Internet of Things. Here many electronic devices will be connected over the internet, and they use some lightweight protocols to communicate. For example, MQTT is one popular protocol for IoT communication, and this protocols usually developed by assuming that the devices are trustworthy and the communication is also trustworthy. However, the recently developed protocols may not have all the security features involved. So the attacker's task is to identify the security vulnerabilities in such devices or in such protocols and exploiting them. As IoT uses multiple electronic devices, that means it is not a homogeneous network, but it is a heterogeneous network. Homogeneous in the sense all the electronic devices that are used in the IoT network are having the same configuration, but it is not possible in any IoT network. As multiple configurations are involved, obviously multiple protocols will be involved in that. So once the attacker identifies any vulnerability in such protocols, it will be leading into serious disaster. Next, we'll move on to the persistent threats. Persistent threats are a kind of post-exploiting threats or post-exploitation threats. That means once the attacker or hacker exploited the user's system, then he will inject some malicious program in it. It will always send the user's data to the attacker in a periodic fashion. That means as per periodically the user's information will be collected. Without knowing to the user, the data will be sent to the attacker. So this is what we call persistent threats. So these are the threats that are majorly that are topped as information security threats. Most of the attackers will pose these kind of will search for these kind of threats to exploit in any security systems. So far we are discussing threats on the systems. So what these systems are actually, and one thing we must remember that threats are always passive. Once the attacker identifies those threats and exploit, then it will lead to the related attacks. So these threats can be posed in three categories. One is threats on the network, and threats on host, and finally threats on the application. Threats on the network means considering an organizational network or maybe a big network consisting of various subnets and various servers, etc. Host threats means these are the personal computers or a single system, etc. Application threats means the applications that are installed on the computer or on the network servers. So the threats can be erased at any level, either from the network level or maybe host level or application level. These threats are basically passive, that means which are unexplored, but once the attacker identifies those unexplored gaps or weaknesses, they will exploit it so that the related attacks will be launched or the related attacks will be posed. So at the network level, the various possible attacks are spoofing attack, sniffing attack, eavesdropping attacks. So this is spoofing, sniffing and eavesdropping are the passive attacks. That means attackers will sit outside of the system and will observe the data or information that are passing in the network. So this information will be useful for him to gain additional knowledge on the functionality of the network. With the information gained, attacker may design a strategy to perform or to explore various other vulnerabilities in the network. Mainly in the network based threats, the attacker's main target is to attack the network protocols. In this direction, ARP poisoning and DNS poisoning are two major attacks that are most commonly posed by the attackers. ARP means address resolution protocol poisoning, DNS means domain name service poisoning. So these attacks will down the system, or sometimes system may not be accessible to the authenticated user after posing these attacks. Some other attacks in the network threats, network-based attacks are denial of service, man in middle attack, password attacks, session hijacking, and attack on the intrusion detection and prevention systems like firewalls and any other IDS which are placed at the which is placed at the network level. In this, denial of service is a very serious attack in which the network resources are the main target is to make the network resources unavailable to the users. So here a simple denial of service may also be conducted by the attacker, or distributed denial of service is also another serious threat that can be posed on the networks. Next comes to the host based threats. Basically these threats are pertaining to the independent system or individual system, in which the physical security threats, that means damaging physically or tampering something physically, unauthorized access, when the authorized user is away, attacker may gain the information about the computer, then later whenever the authorized user is not there, then the attacker may enter the system physically and do something, or do file copying or modifying the system, etc. can be done. Next, password attacks, guessing the passwords, searching for the passwords via brute force methods or dictionary based attacks, etc. Next is footprinting, is getting the information of the regular user by making some communication with the regular user of the system and gaining some patterns that it may be related to the password or maybe related to the file handling or maybe application protection or maybe any other thing related to the attacker choice. He may gain the patterns related to the user of the system, and that patterns may be correlated. That means the attacker may connect the dots that the information they gathered and may devise a attacking plan for the computer. Next one is malwares. Malwares in the sense malicious software. These malicious softwares may be injected into the independent individual systems, maybe via injecting the flash drives, and from there the malware may be entered into the computer, and then malware may be, once the computer is connected to the internet, this malware will become active and the attacker may activate this particular malware so that the user information may be gained by the attacker. Next is malicious or arbitrary code execution. In the similar way of malware, it also works, executing of the malicious code on the computer, introducing the backdoors like trojans, etc. into the computer, and other related threats are belong to the host based threats. Application threats, that means the user applications that are devised are designed and developed by the developers and programmers may be having some security flaws. These security flaws will be explored by the attackers. Thereby, they will try to compromise the system by exploiting such vulnerabilities. Among such application threats, SQL injection attacks, error and exception handling mismanagement. This was happened in the Java older versions. And security misconfiguration. Sometimes security features of a particular application may be misconfigured, or user might have not changed the default settings. In this way also attacks may be possible. Next, attacks on the authentication and authorization, and attacks on the cryptography procedures that are used in the application, and thereby after exploiting such vulnerabilities they may go for information disclosure of the disclosure that is available in that particular application. So these are the various different attacks that are possible on the three categories: networks, hosts, and applications. See, as a motivating part, I have briefly made a comment on these attacks, but these attacks will be discussed sometimes in deeply or sometimes in a general way in the later topics. So that is the reason I have not kept much stress on each and every attack, but simply I have gone through the general description of each and these attacks. Here, one thing we must remember is, either in the host or in the network, some software applications will be running. Then only these systems will work fine. These services may be like operating system services or database services or any other thing. That means in the network at the network level, network servers will be there, in which server operating systems may function. At the host level, a desktop operating system or an operating system which is installed in a laptop may work. And hence, the threats that may be posed at the network level or host level may also have serious impact on the currently or running operating system on those systems. So, once the operating system is compromised, it is very easy for the attacker to gain whatever the information he requires. Mostly these vulnerabilities will be identified by the attacker, such as buffer overflows, some bugs that may available in the operating system, and some unpatched versions of the operating systems may be used by the users. So these are the main sources with which attacker will gain the control of the operating systems. So that is the reason the operating systems must be updated regularly, and we must use genuine operating systems so that the latest updates will be downloaded from internet whenever you connect to the internet automatically, and these updates will be installed on the computer, and the related security patches will also be updated. Thereby most of the threats can be nullified. Thereby you will not give any scope for the attacker to enter into the system. So far we have seen the basic terminology. Now we will see what is meant by hacking. Hacking is the process of gaining unauthorized access to the system or network resources. It will be done by exploiting vulnerabilities and or compromising security. So the concept of assets, threats, vulnerabilities and risk that was discussed previously will be helpful now to understand what is meant by hacking. Hacking is the process of gaining unauthorized access. So here robber will not take any authorization to enter into the bank and to rob the money and jewelry. So in the same way here, the hacking is the process of gaining unauthorized access to system or network resources. How this particular thing will be done generally? It will be done by exploiting vulnerabilities. That means the robber here is trying to explore is there any weakness or gap in the security system or in the entry level or at the door level, etc. So once he finds the vulnerability or that is weakness or gap, he try to exploit it. That means if he find a door with a weak key or weak lock, then he may try to break it. So like that, once he explores the vulnerability, he will try to exploit the vulnerability so that he will get the access to the system. But who will do this particular hacking task? A single person may do it, or a group of persons or group of hackers sit together and may compromise or will try to go for compromising of the system. Or they may sketch a plan that how to enter into the network and how to compromise the resources. So there is a reason persons who perform this task is said to be a hacker. Next, a hacker may modify the system or application features once the compromising is successful. It is just like how a robber will enter into the bank and he may rob entire money and the jewelry, etc. in the locker. At the same time, he may modify any documents which are very, very important for the bank, or he may tamper them, or he may destroy them also, depending upon whatever the wish or whatever the will of the robber. In the same way here also, a hacker may also modify the system, or he may take the entire control, or he may install something which will always report the information about the user or the network to the hacker in a regular or periodic intervals. So that kind of installation is said to be a malware or virus, or that we will see afterwards. So that means he will gain the complete control of the system. So next is obviously a successful hacking may breach user or company data, sensitive information, and leads to business or financial losses. Obviously recently, due to COVID-19 crisis, many of the institutions started following a Zoom online platform for teaching the syllabus or the leftover syllabus, and afterwards we come to know that Zoom has some vulnerabilities the one who invited, instead of the one who invited, some other people are joining the Zoom sessions, that is video sessions, and they are creating some disturbances in the ongoing video calls. At the same time, the government of India also reported that some precautions that you are supposed to take care of while using the Zoom app. In the meanwhile, many of the newspapers reported that millions of the user data which was registered under the Zoom app have been leaked and was sent to dark web. So this is the way how the hackers will explore the vulnerabilities in an application and will try to breach the data or breach the sensitive information. So obviously, whenever any company stakeholders come to know that the company's data or servers have been hacked and the sensitive information was leaked, then it may lead to huge financial or business losses. So in any way, the hacking activity will be having a serious impact on the business and financial sectors. Not only business and financial, obviously the users' sensitive information is also on the public domain. So thereby some users may not unable to digest such information. Recent happenings like some dating website. In the dating website, the user data has been leaked out, and by knowing it, many of the users of that particular dating site have gone for suicide. So this hacking activity sometimes will lead to huge business, financial, and sometimes human losses also. So with this, you can understand a hacker is having a clear way of understanding the system, and he has a clear sketch of how to enter into the system and what are the resources that need to be compromised and how this particular data need to be taken out. So attackers will always work with a motive, or we can say with a goal, and also they should know, or they will be knowing the suitable method for that, how to achieve the particular goal, and in the process of achieving that goal, they will identify what are the vulnerabilities in the target system. So the target system will be chosen first, and the next procedure is they will explore the vulnerabilities, and then the explored vulnerabilities are exploited so that to gain the complete control of the target system. So this is the way hacking process will happen. Now we'll see for what purpose this hacking activity will be done. The objective behind the information security attacks by the hackers are like may disturb especially to disturb the business continuity. That means some business is going wonderfully and the attackers want to bring down that particular business by compromising their servers, or to go for information theft, or to manipulate some data, or sometimes damaging the reputation of a particular organization, or especially to steal the sensitive informations of a country like military or finance, etc. And sometimes there may be another angle like propagating the religious or political beliefs, or sometimes to create a chaos in the smooth functioning of a organization, or sometimes to take a revenge. So like that the motives are in a different dimension, but the motives we cannot especially to categorize, and all motives of the hackers cannot be equated to the revenue, but sometimes the motives may be in a different way, like taking revenge or to create a chaos in the smoothly going organization, smoothly running organization. Well, in this video we have seen the basic overview of the information security and what are the different pillars of the information security. We can also call these pillars as the properties of information security. Mainly, any attacker or any hacking group will focus on compromising these pillars or compromising these properties. Those properties are confidentiality, integrity, availability, authentication, and non-repudiation. So these are the 5 pillars or main target of any attacker. Then we have seen what are the different attacks on the information security and how these attacks are possible. What is the basic difference between asset, threat, vulnerability and risk? All these concepts have been seen in the current video. Then we have moved on to the threat categories. These threats are categorized in 3 ways. One is network based threats, another is host based threats, another is application level threats. Then afterwards we have seen what is hacking in general and hacking, for what purpose the hacking will be done, and what is the intention of any hacker, and finally what the hacker wants to gain by compromising any of the system. In the next video we will see remaining topics.